I know this is a controversial subject, although for the life of me, I don't understand why it would be, but it comes up all the time, so I thought it was about time I talked about it. As some might already know, I'm a strong advocate for the right to end your own life for any reason you personally think is valid. You have a right to control your own destiny. You have a right to bodily autonomy. And society is just downright stupid when it tries to get in the way. I get that the majority of people have an irrational fear of death, to the point that not only do they want to keep from dying themselves, but they want to keep everyone else from doing it by force. And I think that's just stupid. As I've said many times before, one of the most basic requirements for maturity is coming to grips with reality as reality is, not as you wish it was. It's accepting the real world for how the real world operates. It doesn't matter if you're happy, it matters if you're realistic. But far too many people would rather be happy than realistic, and I find that endlessly pathetic. These are people who don't recognize their own place in the universe. They have a vastly overinflated sense of their own importance, and they're going to force that absurdly overinflated self-importance on everyone around them, no matter how ridiculous it is. I don't care how that makes you feel, I'm just pointing out the factual reality of the situation. The fact is, in the grand scheme of things, humanity is irrelevant. When humanity eventually goes extinct, when the planet gets burned to a cinder as our sun expands into a red giant, the universe will not miss us, or even notice that we're gone. If there is other intelligent life out there in the cosmos, they won't mourn our passing. We'll be, at best, a strange archaeological footnote in the history books of the universe. Like it or not, we're not the end-all, be-all of existence. Sure, we have a vested interest in our own continued existence. That's coded into our genes, and we'd really like to stick around for our own selfish purposes. People fear death for irrational, emotional, and I believe entirely intellectually unjustified reasons. The fact is, we're just animals running around on a planet full of animals. We're special to no one but ourselves. Animals die. All of them. We don't get to be the exception. Sure, animals try to remain alive for as long as they can because that's what their instincts tell them to do, to continue the species and pass along their genes to the next generation. But those are instincts, not intelligent thoughts. The only place where humans are special among the other animals is that we have the intellect to override our base instincts, if we choose to chart a different course than our genes have programmed us to do. But damn if most people aren't entirely happy to be dragged around by the nose, doing what evolution has coded into us when we were but primitive savages. Aren't we supposed to be better than that today? Far too many people simply never want to improve. And this is true of a lot of things, but nowhere as badly as our attempt to survive, even when we ought to die. There are people who will hook themselves up to every machine imaginable just to stay alive. There's no quality of life present. They will never get better. But they're so terrified of just accepting the inevitable that they will squander every resource available just to get a few weeks or months of precious life. And so long as they're footing the bill, and so long as they're making their own decisions, I'm fine with that. They should be able to make the call when it's their own body on the line. They have bodily autonomy, and no one should be able to pull your plug involuntarily so long as you are responsible for the costs of your own care. But when you start trying to control the medical decisions of others, that's when you've completely crossed the line. Remember the case of Terri Schiavo from the late 90s? She collapsed in 1990 and went into an irreversible coma. She had lost oxygen to the brain for so long that outside of a few autonomic functions, she simply wasn't there anymore. There was no recovery possible. And after 8 long years, her husband, who had the legal right of attorney to do so, decided to pull the plug on the machines that were keeping her alive, and there was a huge legal battle to stop him from doing what he had every right to do, what he said Terri would have wanted him to do. The court battle raged for 7 years, during which everyone weighed in on the situation. And let's be honest, it was neither their place nor their business to control what Michael Schiavo chose to do, and when, in 2005, he finally won the final appeal and her feeding tube was removed, she died, and the autopsy showed that he and the doctors had been right all along. Her brain was gone, and she had been effectively dead for 15 years. This was a travesty of the highest order. But this just doesn't stop. Every time someone announces that they want to end their own life, regardless of the circumstances, society rises up against them. Take the case of Brittany Maynard, who was diagnosed with an incurable brain tumor and faced a long, slow, and very painful deterioration no matter what she did. So she moved from California to Oregon, where assisted suicide was legal, and after living the last of her productive life to the fullest, she chose to die. And the religious, especially the Catholic Church, constantly attacked her for her decision. But where the hell do the religious get off thinking that they get to decide what choices a person is allowed to make? Oh, right. They think they have a magic telephone to an all-powerful, invisible father figure in the sky that gets to tell people what they ought to do, but conveniently enough never does anything himself. Well, screw these people and their idiotic, irrational beliefs. It's none of their damn business. In fact, it's none of anyone's business but the people directly involved. Where a person has the mental capacity to make their own decisions, I find it absurd to deny them the right to take their own life should they decide that's what they want to do. In fact, I don't even care what reasons they might have for wanting to end their lives. It's not for me to decide what's a valid reason and what's an invalid reason. I don't get to say, and neither do you. It could be a totally stupid reason in my opinion, but it isn't my life, and it isn't my body, and it simply isn't my decision. And it's not yours either. It is only the decision of the person it directly affects. This is something that people need to figure out. And yes, before you ask, I do have direct experience with this. Now, way back when I was 17 or 18, I knew someone online who wanted to kill herself. Now, we talked about it a lot. I know she was sick. I don't know, or at least I don't remember exactly what was wrong with her, but it was something serious. We talked online, we talked on the phone a few times, and she didn't want to live a life of pain and suffering every day. So I think she ended up killing herself. I don't know for sure. She simply vanished and I never saw or heard from her again. But based on what we talked about, I had a feeling at the time that it was the right decision for her to make. But as I said, even if I thought it was a wrong decision, even if I wouldn't have taken that action in her place, it still wasn't my choice to make. It was hers. I don't feel bad about it because it's not my call. Now, it sucks that she had to deal with whatever illness that she had, but that's reality. It's too bad Brittany Maynard had an incurable brain tumor, but that's what happened, and all the complaining in the world won't change the real world. It sucks that people have bad experiences, but they do. It sucks that people have messed up brain chemistry, but it happens. You can't save everyone, and I don't know that we should even try. About 34,000 people die every year in the US by their own hand. Now, there are about 4 million children born, so it's not like we're going to run out of people. It isn't like the species is in any risk of going extinct. Losing 34,000 people a year is a drop in the bucket. Now, that might hurt people's feelings to hear, but unless you're personally and directly influenced by someone's depression or suicidal thoughts, it's none of your damn business. Recently, in a discussion about suicide, there was this one self-identified libertarian who took the least libertarian position that I can imagine, that people ought to be stopped from committing suicide. Whatever happened to bodily autonomy and personal choice? Apparently, that goes right out the window when it hits his emotional hot buttons. He couldn't explain it, he just kept getting more and more and more upset until, I think at least, he got ejected from the thread. He was really upset that anyone would even entertain the idea that forcibly stopping people from taking their own lives would even be questioned. Autonomy is great until it gets in the way of his feelings, and then the hell with it. Libertarian my ass. But a lot of people react the same way. Their feelings get in the way of reality. They'll make you do whatever they want you to do because otherwise it makes them feel bad. Well, boo-hoo. You people need to take a step back, look at the big picture, realize that it's not all about you. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter what you want. It's not your life, so it's not your choice. Get over yourselves. I support your right to do whatever you want to do with your body, so long as you are responsible for your choices. I don't have to like what you do. I simply have no right to stop you from doing it, and neither does anyone else. It might be a bit different if you're a minor, but for adults, do whatever you decide to do. Make the best decisions for you. Feel free to talk to people about your options, but when the time comes and you make a choice, I don't want anyone to get in the way of you carrying out your choice, so long as your choice doesn't harm anyone else. It's your choice, no one else's. That's why I have medical directives in place to make my choices plain. If I'm ever declared brain dead, I'm to be taken off every machine they can find. Hell, go down the hall, get some more machines, and unplug those too. I want to die. Anyway, I've rambled on for long enough. So, what do you think? Is it anyone's business to keep adults from acting of their own accord and taking their own life? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you have any other topics that you want to know a secular conservative take on, let me know that too. I still have another half dozen or so that I'll get to sooner or later, but I could always use more suggestions. So until next time, be responsible for yourself and stop thinking you get to decide for others. Freedom is for everyone, no matter what choices they make.
Everything changes.